Welcome everybody as we watch Bisu versus Anytime from 2005. This is in October 24th, the Sky 2005 Pro League Round 2. That means that this is going to be a PvP. And how good is Bisu's PvP going to be? In fact, a lot of people say that PvT is Bisu's weakest matchup. But he has had quite a few troubles in PvP throughout history. While he has some really good streaks, his elo is high up there, it's one of the best in its peaks. It doesn't mean that he is consistently good in PvP. But back in 2005, how can we tell? This is his third game in Pro League right now that he is going to play. And in fact, he took a win off Stay in the first one, and he played Jun Wee second, and he also won. So Bisu is 2-0 in Pro League with 2 wins against Zerg. But how will he fare against Protoss Anytime? We'll have to just discover here. Neo Forte is quite the odd map. If you watch game 1 that I played for you with Bisu versus Stay, you will have already gotten a pretty good idea of what the map looks like. But you start off on this platform, and it's a 4-player map. So, if you're a little confused, Bisu is going to be the blue Protoss player spawning at the top left, and then Anytime will be the red Protoss player spawning at the top right. Really hard to read that Korean, but it does match up with Bisu's name. And already doing his thing, sending out a probe. But a pretty fast gas, actually. Well, no, I take that back. So they're both getting gases on their simulators because they want to go for that Cybernetics core range upgrade for their Dragoons. Getting that upgrade is pretty much a mandatory thing early on. Very useful if you want to go into a steady, mid-game play with your opponent. And the upgrade will pay off for the rest of the game. So you might as well go for it, get your core out, and only if you see your opponent when you're scouting build zealots do you need to be worried and start building your zealots yourself. Now, most of this map is actually sectioned off by minerals, and so it kind of makes it odd, because you can almost shape the map by mining out the minerals and creating more space. As far as records go, there were 38 PvP mirrors played on the television broadcasted. And Bisu played a huge amount of them. And now that I'm looking at these PvPs here, so that's pretty cool. And obviously you can't have a win rate in PvP. That would just be weird and wrong. And that's debatable whether it's 50 or 100% win rate. So anytime he does get to Cybernetics core, and he is dropping down, what was that, 2 gateways? Probably. So this could be a 3-gate build, and especially with the opponents being pretty close here, the robotics facility being dropped down for Bisu, so he is going to be going for, getting that shuttle out and making the best of that world. So, okay, it was a pylon and a gateway that was dropped down, but with the close spawn positionings, whoever gets a few more gateways early on could actually take advantage of the army size against their opponent and pressure them. So Bisu, who did not go for a gateway first and instead went for a robotics facility, might find himself a little bit on the defensive end if Anytime decides to drop down another gateway and go more aggressive with his army size versus going for the harassment type unit that the Reaver can provide. But no, the robotics facility does come after the gateway. So instead, this is going to be a little bit different. I think the advantage is going to be for Bisu, who has the... he did go for the observatory first instead of going for the robotics support bay. So Reavers aren't going to be coming out, and DTs aren't on their way either. So basically, Bisu has that robotics facility first to just be very careful. But because his gateways are just finishing up, Anytime could have an army advantage if he was able to capitalize on the fact that his gateways went up before the robotics facility. So it looks like the core upgrade is going to be finishing up very soon. Dragoons can defend very well on the high ramp, and as long as you have that one Zealot at the front to kind of take damage, because otherwise it's very difficult to deal with a bunch of Zealots running up. Even with Dragoons, you cannot always micro them perfectly if the Zealot count is higher than the Dragoons. So that's something you always have to be worried about early on in the game. But Bisu, in any time they scouted out their opponents, only have to focus on Dragoons right now, and it's going to be interesting to see who's going to decide to expand first. The shuttle is done though, and the robotic support bay is going to be coming along. Now the deal is, there's an observer out for Bisu. He can scout his opponent if he wants to, and unless any time is tricky, Bisu will pretty much see that there is a shuttle inside of Anytime's base. That observer though is going to be really defensive. Hopefully it's going to try and catch Bisu. But regardless, as long as Bisu stays very visual on the map, this robotics facility, basically the Reaver won't get anything done. And now that he's going for this additional Nexus, he's just got to put his Dragoons in the right spot so he won't lose tons of probes during this harassment attempt by Anytime. Oh, and finally the observer is going to be moving into Bisu's base. He looks like he doesn't have anything to pick off that observer if he does end up seeing it inside of his main base. And what is this probe getting ready to do here? Just kind of lingering at the bottom, but it is just kind of scouting out to make sure there are no hidden bases. You never want to have that hidden Nexus. Oh, and finally the Reaver does get loaded. So both of them did end up going for the robotics facility, or the robotics support bay. And one thing I want to point out though is if one of the players decides to get a robotics support bay really late to go for Reaver, while the other player decides to go for High Templar a little bit quicker and can secure a second base while going for that High Templar tech, then they have a huge advantage in the end, because High Templar units end up being the better harassers plus the better military unit in the large battles as the game does progress. But right now, both players opt to go for Reavers. It's going to make it pretty much an even split between these two players so far. There is no heavy advantage. But Bisu does see that there is a shuttle coming in here. Oh, very good reaction time. And Anytime is going to have to pull his shuttle back while Bisu does defend that Reaver drop. With that additional Nexus, though, it looks like Bisu is going to have a mining natural base much quicker than Anytime. And the little things do matter. It seems like Bisu can take advantage of this. And if nothing happens right now, then Bisu could just straight up win this game by the power of economy and numbers. And it's going to come down to some really sick micro by Anytime if he's going to have to deal with having a smaller army supply, since he's going to be farther behind trying to make sure his economy can function at the same quality as Bisu's. And an interesting drop of units onto the high ground here. Not sure what is trying to be accomplished there, but Anytime he's got to be up to something. Both players are playing very passive, not wanting to really progress outside of the main and natural, because they both know that there's this potential for either player to just wreck the economy. One little mistake can pretty much mean the game between these two players right now. This is not a very aggressive game, so there's not really much to say here, and I don't think that PvP has changed that much, and I think maybe only maps have changed the metagame for Protoss versus Protoss, but other than that, there's kind of like a set standard of rules as far as PvP goes, even as old as 2005. Bisu actually put those Dragoons up there on the high ground to help defend against drops. And do not fear there is a second video. That is the unfortunate part of this, but let me just fix this up. And I will edit these, guys, so that way it looks a little bit better here. Okay, boom. Cool. Oh no! How depressing. We can't see the end of the Anytime game. Ah! Why does the world hate Bisu? That's so unfair. So, apparently, there is no end to this game. So, I guess we'll go to the next one.